what do I mean by that? Well, we still use the terms dominant and recessive for alleles, but this time, because it's sex-linked, the alleles are on sex chromosomes. This is the case with sex-linked traits. So what is a sex chromosome? Well, recall that humans have 46 chromosomes. Chromosomes are made up of DNA and protein, and they contain your genes. Well, 2 of your 46 chromosomes, they are called the sex chromosomes. In a karyotype, it is usually the last 2 chromosomes that are the sex chromosomes. The sex chromosomes are called X and Y chromosomes, but it has nothing to do with the shape of the chromosome. That's always kind of confusing, but please don't think that Y chromosomes are shaped like a Y and X chromosomes are shaped like an X. This used to always confuse me. It has nothing to do with their name. The reason they got their name is actually kind of interesting, so to the Google for that. Everyone has an X chromosome, but if you have another X chromosome, meaning you have 2 X chromosomes, you are female. And if you have a Y chromosome, meaning you have an X and a Y chromosome, you are male. There are also genetic disorders where you can have extra copies of sex chromosomes, but we will not go into that in this clip. Sex-linked traits are traits that are specifically on the sex chromosomes. Most sex-linked traits tend to be on the X chromosome because it is larger than the Y chromosome and it contains more genes than the Y chromosome. The disorder hemophilia is like this. Now we will use the letter capital H to represent an allele for having normal blood clotting function, and a letter lowercase h to represent an allele for having hemophilia. Hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disorder, which is why it's being represented by a lowercase letter h. Only it must be placed on the sex chromosome as a superscript, like an exponent. A woman that does not have hemophilia could have the genotype X big H, or X big H, X little h. Because as long as she's got at least one dominant allele, that dominating allele will be what shows. So no hemophilia, since again, hemophilia is a recessive sex-linked disorder. The only way for her to have hemophilia would be the genotype X little h, because only when there is no dominant present will that recessive show up, at least in this type of trait. Now for a male to not have hemophilia, his genotype would have to be X big H, Y. Notice how I did not put anything on the Y chromosome. Again, most sex-linked traits are on the X chromosome. If he has the genotype X little h, Y, then he has hemophilia. He doesn't have 2 X chromosomes, so he cannot be a carrier. So let's say that 2 people that do not have hemophilia have children. However, let's say that the woman is a carrier. That means she is heterozygous. How do you do a sex-linked Punnett square cross for this kind of trait? Step 1. Identify the genotypes of the parents. So the mother was a carrier. She is X big H, X little h. She does not have hemophilia because of that dominant allele present, but she is a carrier. The male, if he does not have hemophilia, well, he must be X big H, Y. There's no other option for him. Step 2. Place one parent on the top, outside of the square like this, and place the other parent on the left, outside of the square like this. Step 3. Cross them. For formatting purposes, place X chromosomes before Y, and you also write any sex chromosomes with dominant letters first. The results you get in the squares would be the offspring, the babies. The genotype ratio could be written out like this. The phenotype ratio, remember that these are the observable traits, can be written out that there is a 75% chance that the child will be born without hemophilia and a 25% chance that a child would have hemophilia for this boy here. You could also make this a ratio, so 3:1. Notice that in this type of example of a sex-linked recessive disorder, males are more likely to inherit this disorder because there is only one X chromosome present. This is true for many other sex-linked recessive disorders, such as colorblindness. Well, that's it for the Amoeba Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.